I'm just going to introduce my next guest right here. Good morning. And I have here with me Pastor Sam Adetona.
That's right.
How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
It's a pleasure.
And I guess the topic fits you perfectly because you're all about Britain arising.
That's right.
And so we're very happy to have you on the show. If you can just to tell me a little bit about you.
Right. My name is Pastor Sam Outreach, and we have been involved in many community works and mission work, and which is really a part of the reasons why we started this Britain Arise, because we just believe that there is something specific which spiritually and physically, everything just work together and fits in together. Now, all the thing that we have been doing really is to do with community work, especially when it comes to Britain here, this community work.
Okay, fantastic. So you believe that God has given you a vision?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And can you take me through that vision?
Right, it is long. Obviously, we're going to be talking through this today. The first thing actually started a while ago when I knew that there is something specific that's going to happen, especially which is connected to a revival. Meaning, there's going to be a sovereign move of God in this country. That's the first thing I saw. A while ago. But something that happened in 2009 that I saw specifically that is something that God want to do with this particular nation here. Just as God had always been moving in the past, as we know, God has always been moving in the past and doing certain things. I got to know that Great Britain has a specific role to play in the hand of God. From this thing that I saw that there is something that God did for America. I also saw something in regards to America at that same time. That there is something that is concerning America, that God actually placed a power of wealth over America. And that has helped America for a very long time. I saw this since, I can describe the whole process of what I saw.
Yeah. And
suddenly, that power that preside over America to become a very wealthy and powerful nation now moved.
Okay.
Now, when it came to Europe, and it was hovering around Europe to see where it's going to be placed. And suddenly, God placed it here in Great Britain. Now, in that scene of all the things that I saw, I now realized that there's something that God want to do with Great Britain. And the other thing that I saw, which really showed that specifically at a point in time, there are certain things that God will begin to do. So I saw that God God separated Great Britain from Europe.
Okay.
And then that he will not begin to use it. He can't use Great Britain until he has separated Great Britain.
Interesting. So I was talking to Sybil before you came on,
right.
And Sybil has the same concept. He voted to leave the European Union.
Okay.
So we're just going to wrap up with him.
Okay.
Sybil?
Yes.
So I've got Pastor Sam Adetona here, and he's talking about the vision that God gave him, which is very much similar to what you were discussing, in terms of having Great Britain be its own entity in order to be able to rule effectively. So if you can just round up your point for me. So you said that we should stop talking about community, stop segregating ourselves as a black community or this community, but rather stop being pessimistic, but look for the opportunity to see what we can do once the European once we leave the European Union.
Let me clarify that point about community. What I was not stop being a community was being strategic when he said the word community.
Okay.
How we use it, how we define it, because it can be deemed a bit of a very separatist sort of thing, how we do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the pastor, because one point which I did not mention was that as a God-fearing person, I felt very strongly in my spirit as well, based on certain connotations of Brussels, based on Babylon and certain things, I felt it was important to go against the Brussels or that thinking behind the Brussels there. There's a deeper spiritual thing about that as well. So I think I err on the side of safety as well. That was another fact that maybe Christians might understand more. So in summary now, in wrapping up from my perspective, as I said, the UK, with the plan of everything now, is planning to leave 2019, and as well what they're going through now is the process of the discussions which are going back and forth with the single market, the customs union, and all those bits. You got Scotland, Ireland, you got the borders there with Ireland, and all those things which are happening now, which are going through with a fine-tooth comb. This is a process of negotiations.
Okay.
The parties in principle agree that Brexit will happen, yet you have some sort of, what should I say, serious reformers, as we would say, persons who really adamant and wanting to stop the process, like and as well the unelected chamber of the House of Lords, where there's no question should we get rid of the House of Lords, which is going against the will of the people to a certain extent. But I say the House of Lords still has a role to play, but these are some serious questions that need to be asked.
Okay, we'll probably have to get you back in, or get you in, and then we can have a real good debate, and I'll make sure I'm equipped and back my arguments up.
Exactly, and especially when they say that things are more expensive, ask them where they shop. A couple of water,
but prices in general are going up anyway. But yeah, it was great talking to you, and thank you so much for joining me on the discourse this morning.
Yes,
enjoy your day. Okay, bye.
It was a well-paying job, respectable, wearing a suit and tie every day. But I drank 24/7. Drank on the way to work, drank at work.
I never could come to terms with admitting that I had an alcohol problem or a pill problem.
I decided to get clean, and so I went to the Narconon program.
Not only did I handle my drug addiction, I completely knew how to live life.
Call Narconon today at 01435 512 460. 01435 512 460.
Hi, this is Rodney Hines.
And I'm Michael. Join us on the Voice of Sports show each and every Saturday on ABN Radio.
We'll keep you bang up to date with all the latest football scores, and we'll discuss all the big talking points in the world of sport. So don't forget, join us this Saturday, 4 till 6 on ABN Radio UK.
Tune in to the new ABN Breakfast Show from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. The London City Show has evolved into an all-new breakfast show with sizzling slices of juicy newsy current affairs served with junior jumbo-sized convos on issues you should be aware of. What did I just say? The ABN Breakfast Show, the Afropolitan breakfast you can't afford to miss.
Consider that life wasted. Consider the heart ripped out of a family. Consider the potential never realized. Are these the things you consider when you carry a knife? It's not about street cred. It's about staying alive. Drop that knife. Save your life.
So good morning. You are listening to The Discourse with me, Esther Alade, this morning. And we're talking about Brexit. And the question we're asking is, did you vote in? Did you vote out? What is Brexit? And how will Brexit affect us as a community? We just had Sybil on the phone who says that we should be more strategic. He voted to leave the European Union, and that it's all about us looking for opportunities. And I have Pastor Sam Adetona also here with me in the studio, who believes that God gave him a vision in regards to making Britain great again, and that Britain will arise, and the only way that Britain will arise is by leaving the European Union. And yes, and you can join the conversation with me. It's 0208 670 7300 or 0208 191 7078. And if that line is busy, you can call 07887 475 940. And then I have the lovely Denise Headley on the phone. Good morning, Denise.
Hello, good morning, Esther, and good morning, Sam.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm up earlier than I would have planned to be, but I'm most grateful. I usually go to the gym anyway, so I'm missing out on my squats.
Oh, but I don't want you to miss out on something that's good for you. So, wait, did you get to listen to what Sybil was saying?
Yeah, I did listen to Slyborn because he was advocating...
Sorry, Sybon, thank you, Sybon.
No, it's okay, because I'm not great with pronunciations, but he was advocating a particular idea about Brexit, and when you asked him specific questions about, you know, how, where we are as a community, socio-economic questions, he said that we shouldn't focus on a victim mentality, and I understand that point, but I think we cannot escape the fact that as a community in this country, we are prevalent in particular areas, namely in the judicial system. We are underperforming in our schools, so, and that's not a victim mentality. That is like that. That's
facts. Yeah.
So I don't accept that point. It's a victim mentality if you are articulating your truth. Yeah. And your truth is that these are the circumstances we find ourselves in.
Yeah. So you voted to stay.
Yes, ma'am.
So did I. But Pastor Sam here tells us that actually, from his vision, it's going to be great for us to leave.
Sure.
So,
definitely. I mean, I've been saying this for a while now. I don't know.
Tell us.
I mean, it's just not, to be honest, it's not even just a vision. You know, we can all bring all our ideas and opinions together, but one thing we do know is there is something that kind of stands to preside over every decision that we make. Even when we look through the Bible, I mean, of course, I'm going to bring that in. When we look through the Bible, we see that God has a say in every country and what happens in there, and especially we're talking about Israel today. God's hand is really in that nation. And the same way, God's hand is in this country. Whichever way we go about, this Brexit, it has been a long process of what has been happening. And then again, the vision of Brexit is not the only vision that I've seen in regards to Great Britain. There has been times when the Lord showed me the vision of who comes into power, especially during the time of Tony Blair, David Cameron.
So you've seen he would
that's
come
right.
in. Okay.
So there is a reason why God is showing this. God is showing that He is in this, and there are certain things that each specific individuals have to do, a different role that they have to play, and some of this vision is also went back as far as when Britain got involved with Afghanistan war, Iraq war, all these things, all this vision I saw, because it was not actually, although this is not what we're talking about now, but just to show that the Lord has been showing series of visions and directions in regards to this nation, how they went wrong. I mean, they went wrong going to Iraq, they went wrong going to Afghanistan, because the Lord showed at the time that it will never work. I mean, I showed this and I posted it on the internet just for people to see that it's not just of now that a vision or prophecy has been coming. Now, when it now comes to Britain, it's also showing about Britain in regards to Brexit and the role that they have to play. Actually, what we're seeing now, I mean, we're kind of specifying what is going to happen with bringing ideas, but it's more than all this is going to happen. At the moment, it's more or less like going into it confused, not knowing what they have to do. However, it doesn't matter which way they come into it, whichever way they might stumble into it, but at the end, what God want to do, He will do it. Because one of the things that God want to do about this country in particular is He's going to make this country a very superpower country, superpower nation.
Okay, let me stop you there. Denise, do you agree with that?
I'm not a theologian, and my perspective about Brexit doesn't come from a biblical base.
No.
I don't agree with all of the what Sam has said, because I think what's important to remember is that the European Union is a partnership of 28 countries that began after a period of human conflict, and it was set up primarily so that the position was that if we traded together, we would less likely to be at war with each other. Since that time, it's developed into a single market, and it has its own governance, it has its own currency, and it has its own regulatory powers, which it binds all those countries too. And that in itself is something that has created, in my view, stability and peace. And if you are moving away from a structure that creates stability and peace, you are moving towards uncertainty. And while I'm not saying that uncertainty isn't a good place to reside in, but it's important that stability creates peace, in my opinion. When you have uncertainty, you have volatility, and volatility creates confusion. And I think we're at the point in our human existence where we're going through some sort of developmental stage whereby people and democracies are changing and things are looking different. And as a consequence, when we see difference and we're not able to cope with difference, we often look to the heavens for an answer and say, you know, this is the route, this is the Lord's plan. But it's because we're trying to find meaning in the things that we're no longer feeling meaning in. So I don't accept the pastor's proposition, and I think that the European Union is something that should be preserved. And very often we don't have, people don't talk favourably about it. It's always done in a negative way. You know, the media is very anti-Europe. We're very anti-migration. So I don't accept the points that the pastor is making.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
You know, what people need to realize is that there's a lot of things that goes on in the background that is not going to be revealed to people. It's not everything that they're doing that they're not going to come, oh, this is what we're doing. We're doing A, B, C, D, you know. They're not going to say that. What people, the point that people are speaking from is things that they think and how they think things should be. A lot of things have already been worked out in the background. Definitely. It might sound as if they don't know what they're doing. It sounds as if they're stumbling into it. If we follow what the media is saying, I mean, you go wrong. These people are knowledgeable people. They know. They're very constructive in what they do. Now, apart from bringing God's idea into it, I mean, whichever way they...
I think what Denise was saying was that the media is actually for the fact that we've left the European Union.
Sure.
And there's a lot of propaganda around it.
Right.
I don't know. Is that what you were trying to say, Denise?
Well, yeah, I think if you look at how the whole question of Europe and how that actually has been discussed in the press, it's very akin to the same conversation that we have about migration and immigration. Most of the press have right-wing leanings, and they then promulgate a particular idea and a particular view about the European Union. So for 20 years before the vote, you had nothing but negative stories in the newspapers about the European Union, when in fact the European Union gave us workers' rights. They gave us universal rights. They gave legal protections to women who were working part-time. They had data protection. This whole GDPR that you had a plethora of emails about
is coming through that.
Data. That's because of the European Union redressing the imbalance between the data controllers, the data handlers, and the data givers. So but there is hardly anything positive, you know, in the newspapers, and we constantly have this notion. We're educated in the UK with a system which talks about our superiority. So, and then that's pitted against the European lack of superiority, and that they are coming in and they're trying to alter our laws, or I mean, they do have law. They can bind people with laws, but it's always very negative. There's very few positive things spoken about the European Union, and I think that's the reason why we had a very nationalistic debate. People then migrated towards either abstaining or waiting for other people to act at the ballot box, and the other group, they went in droves and they voted. I mean, I think it was something like 33% of people, I think, voted in the actual referendum. So you have a very small group of people taking the entire country down a political path, which is quite distinct from what we've had for the last 50 years. And the point you were making with, go on. To conclude, the point you were making with Slyborn about the consumer prices, Europe has been able, being part of the European Union, I'm not saying it hasn't got difficulties in terms of price stability, but it has given us price stability, and we have had relatively low cost products from within the European Union because we have regularized and standard trading agreements and costing agreements, and therefore your piece of butter that I used to buy in low-cost home bargain used to cost me 79p. And now when I go there, the same piece of butter costs me £1.45. And if I'm on a low income, that increase of 40 pence across the piece...
That's a lot. That's a high percentage.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so Brexit, to me, has an impact on people of low incomes. It has an impact on people who are from socio-economic groups where they do not have a lot of stability. They don't have a lot of income. And people from black communities and ethnic minority communities, we have lower income across the piece. So it's having a financial impact on us as a community. And that, I think, is something I seldom hear this debated when I hear people talking about Brexit.
Pastor Sam's shaking his head like, no.
Yeah.
But this is reality.
Because I'll tell you what, I'm shaking my head. You see, in everything that happens, there's always an opportunity. Whichever way you look at it, it just depends on how you approach your opportunity.
Opportunity in regards to having like a high percentage increase on food costs.
You know, I'll tell you something. Where some will be saying things are getting tight, you know, that there are some that are also finding a way whereby they're finding opportunities to come in whereby they can make more money. Okay. So it just depends on how we view things.
So your mindset.
You know, it does. If it's for example, when during the time of recession, when there's a lot of cutbacks, while people are screaming that this has been cut, that has been cut, others are making money from it. Where there is a negative, there are some that will approach it with positive. Where there is positive, there will be people that will approach it with negative. That's the way the society runs, whichever country you are.
So what do you say about that, Denise, that it's all about opportunity, even though the price of your butter has gone up?
I think Pastor Sam does have a point in saying that mindset does impact the way you
approach situations,
negotiate things. Yeah. And yes, in every circumstance there are opportunities, but the question is, who is able to capitalize on those opportunities. And who can exploit them to the best of their abilities? Is that going to be someone who is already experiencing financial difficulty? Is that already going to be people who are at the bottom end of the social scale? And just because a person doesn't say, okay, I'm able to maneuver in a particular way, doesn't mean that somehow that they're deficient in their personality. But how can those opportunities best be exploited? Because I think lots of people are looking at the Brexit as an opportunity for the Caribbean and for the Commonwealth countries. Yeah. But when we're talking about the Commonwealth countries and how we as a group of people or a nation of Caribbeans and Africans are going to exploit it, they're not talking to the black Caribbean countries. They're talking about India. They're talking about, okay, you can include them as black people if that's part of your thinking, but they're talking about India, the large trading countries in those. They're talking about they're talking about Australia. They're talking about Canada, and there are trade deals that are trying to be discussed. But for the smaller Caribbean countries, your Jamaicas, your Barbados, and your Barbuda and other parts, those countries are not even part of the debate. Okay. So I think, yes, there's an opportunity, but we also have to not have the veneer that if we talk up mindset, that somehow negates the realities of our circumstances.
Of what's actually happening.
Can I say something here? I'm not saying, I don't dispute what she's saying, okay? There are realities of things. And there are things that goes on that most people don't even understand. All right. Now, I'm coming from the angle of where's the direction? What is going to happen? Whichever country you are, no matter how wealthy that nation might be, there will also be people that are suffering there. We need to understand that. Now, there are people that are decision makers. I mean, we can't always say we get all our strategies right every time. There will be mistakes, but it doesn't mean that we're not in the right direction. What I'm saying here is we are, as a nation, in the right direction. Some might be scared. Some might say, "Oh, we're not sure."
But what Denise is saying is that our countries are not really being considered.
I'm going to come back. I'm going to come into it. The reason, I mean, when you mean Britain or
so likes of African countries.
That has always been there from ages. And the reason is because those leaders they don't push. They're not leading. They're selling the countries. I mean, I'm against that. I mean, you talk about Africa, you could talk about Caribbean, and all the third world countries, and more or less like, it seems as if they don't have a budget, but they're selling their country. So they are. Because they're not pushing the way they're supposed to push. The moment they get a deal for themselves, not really thinking about the people.
Hold on to that thought. Let's go on a quick break, and then we'll come back after this.
The Discourse on ABN Radio. Engaging our community with discerning conversation.
Join me, Esther Alade, on The Discourse, where we will be redefining perspectives with authentic analysis.
Join The Discourse from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on ABN Radio.
This Friday and every Friday on ABN Radio, London's Afropolitan radio station.
England at Wembley. You can't describe it. See the three lions ahead of the FIFA World Cup in Russia. England v Nigeria, 5:15 p.m. Saturday, 2nd of June. thefa.com/tickets. Be there.
Tune in to the new ABN Breakfast Show from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. The London City Show has evolved into an all-new breakfast show with sizzling slices of juicy newsy current affairs served with junior jumbo-sized convos on issues you should be aware of. What did I just say? The ABN Breakfast Show, the Afropolitan breakfast you can't afford to miss.
Consider that life wasted. Consider the heart of the family ripped apart. Consider the potential never realized. Are these the things you consider when you carry a knife? It's not about street cred or respect. It's about staying alive. Drop that knife and save a life. Quentin Slowly, supporting all family and young people.
Welcome back to The Discourse with me, Esther Alade, this morning, and we are talking about Brexit. It's been heated. I love it. We've got Pastor Sam Adetona in the studio with me, and I've got Denise Headley on the phone. So Denise voted to stay in the European Union.
I did.
Pastor Sam voted out, I assume because of your vision. Pastor Sam is seeing a vision from God that Britain will indeed be great again, and he's talking about looking for opportunities. And just before the break we were talking, Pastor Sam was saying that in terms of maybe it's all about the Commonwealth countries that we come from, our leaders are not really doing a great job in terms of looking for opportunities and fighting for us.
That's right.
And Denise, you're more talking about the bargaining power, that we're not going to have that, and that's one of your biggest concerns.
You see, the reason why we can't have, I mean, I agree with that. The reason why we can't have the bargaining power is because the leaders are weak, because all they do, they're not really investing for the people that they lead. No, it's not like the Western world. I mean, the Western world here, if the leader is not performing well, you see the opposition party that can give the push, that can criticize, and then the media will stir that up. But when you go to the third world country, such a system doesn't exist. The leader do what they want to do. There's nobody to impeach them, and they know how to drown whoever try to come against them. So these are internal problems. It's got nothing to do with what happens in the direction of any country. These are internal problems, and they are political. There is nothing we can do about it unless that country have a good leader that can lead, and then they have a good system in place. The problem is not to do with the West. The problem is really to do with all these countries.
Denise, can you clarify?
I don't agree that all leaders are bad leaders. I think, yes, some people do lead and they can lead better, but we need to have a look also at what is the historical relationship between those leaders and the countries that they're involved in. I mean, we're being very general and we're not really being specific, but if you look at the amount of wealth that is extracted out of Africa and the amount of taxes that many of those companies have to pay, they're not paying those taxes. If you look at the debt burden on many of those countries, then, you know, for every pound that country generates, they may be paying the best part of 75% of that in a debt burden. So in that position, you can't begin to grow in a way which is going to create long-term sustainability. So I don't accept that it's just bad leadership. I think there's structural impediments, there are trading types of relationships that create unfair advantage. And it's not, you can't just point to one element and say, you know, based on that one element, those leaders are bad. Yes, of course you have bad leaders. You know, bad leadership is not something that's just specific to Africa or the West or any. Bad leadership is there across the piece. But it's not something that's just one thing that you can focus on. And I think I just wanted to slightly change the facts in the sense that if you look at the number of people who voted black people who voted, 73% of black people voted to stay in the European Union and 67% of Asian people voted to stay in. But 53% of white people voted to leave. And if you look at the proportion of who cast their vote, the white people and indigenous communities in this country, they voted in far greater number. So even though as a proportion of the voting bloc, we voted more to stay, because there were more of those communities voting, that's what happened in it. And in relation to the Commonwealth countries who trade within the Euro, they get particular privileges because there is a conscious understanding that there is a historical and trading bias. And if they get low income, they have to pay they have low tariffs, they have low taxes, and they have access to those markets. So if you as a black person were voting out, you were actually voting out to affect those home countries who were getting special support to actually do particular things. So you were working against your own home country's program of progress, and that was not even considered. That wasn't even part of the discourse that was taking place at the time. So I just think we need to somehow, you know, kind of make the debate slightly wider and not just focus on bad leadership, for argument's sake. We need to actually understand the mechanics of trade and how that happens.
Okay. Let me pass to someone to say something.
I will say this. It is easy for... I'll give you this example. If you're running a business and you are an employee will think differently, while an employer will think differently, because the employer knows what he's paying out to the government, and he's paying the employees as well. So if people are going to bring out their view, you will see that the employer's view is going to be different from the employee's view. It just depends on their position. Now, when you have an insight to what happens in nations, I mean, I've been following a lot of things that goes on in the nation in regards to what I see and what the insight I have. And we might say there's no bad leadership. Let me just quickly give this example. There is a particular country, I don't want to mention the country. The Lord said to me at that time that man is going to be the president. And all the promises that he made that he's going to carry out for the nation to make the nation better, I was told in that vision that if he didn't do it, that he's going to be held accountable for it. Now, he didn't do it. Yeah. So what are you going to say in regards to that? A good leadership or a bad leadership? It's a bad leadership. If you are running a business and somebody comes to trade with you, if you don't want to agree with that trade, you don't have to go ahead. Because if you went ahead, it's because you agree with it. Now, we're talking about Trump today. There are certain countries that he's pulling out from. He's doing what he believes that he's gonna bring a better America, because they've been kind of cheated in the past. And that is the way he said he want to do it. He want to do it for the people. Now, there are not many leaders that comes up and say they want to stand for their people because they want to make a deal that will better their country, whereby the people will not suffer. So until we have that, okay, for me, the angle I'm speaking from here is this: having an insight to what goes on in a country. What is God saying? And what does God want? Now, God might want the good for the country, and that good will happen. However, we have to learn how to distribute the wealth. And one of the things that people need to realize, especially the minor community, that they need to learn to come up themselves. You have to, because if you don't, nobody is coming.
You can't just suggest that the reason they have people in particular countries have not advanced is because, for want of a better word, they're lackadaisical.
No, I don't just zero it to that. I'm not zeroing it to that, because there will always be vulnerable people in any country you go to. There will always be the poor in every country you go to. These are the reasons why we have we have to have community projects so that we can help those who are weak, those who can't vent for themselves. That's the reason why we have that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be encouraged. And because the country want to reach out to every level of the people. But if you go to a third world country, such a system is not there. So why are those systems not there? If we have good leaders, then we'll have those systems in place. Obviously, if you don't have those systems in place, the people are going to suffer.
Leadership, and it's not just about good governance.
Yeah.
If you are involved in trading relationships, these things didn't just happen overnight. It's years and years and years of particular types of ideas, particular types of thinking, which creates a mindset which then articulates the politics, which then articulates the nature of the governance and the way people engage. So if you're looking at Brexit, for argument's sake, there are 52 countries in the Commonwealth. Those countries were previous. I mean, you're talking about making Britain great again. Right. I'm actually quite concerned that you're even using that as a statement. That should be something that we should be applauded. What was great about theft and imperialism?
No, you have to wait.
What was great about that?
This is just
I can't accept that as something that I can reside at. A place of comfort. There was nothing great about the theft, rape, the indigenous slaughter of people, and the full-scale robbery of people's resources. That's not greatness.
It's like having a child. You say, go run without learning to crawl or walk. Everything comes stage by stage. You don't accept to put a seed in the ground and you expect it to begin to produce for you instantly. We're looking for a microwave system here.
What Denise is trying to say is that from what you've titled it as making Britain great again, what we know of history in regards to how Britain was great was very negative.
We can't use the past to judge the future.
Can we not?
You can't use how somebody started his life to say this is how you're going to end it.
What therefore is your yardstick for greatness if it's not the historical context?
I know it's going to be great because I'm so sure of it. Let me give you the reason. One of the reasons why I know it's going to be great because I'm not new in this field.
Give him.
Let me give you this few examples. Back in 2003 and so. When Great Britain went to war, now I received that war is never ever going to be won, and there's going to be a problem. Now there is a problem on that today. You know how many people died? Now these are insight into things that will happen. If you take a hit and you change your decision at that time, it will save many lives. Now not only that, and I knew that it's going to result into terrorism, and I did say that. If you go and read one of my books is called Overcoming the Angry War. If you read it, you will find what this is in there. And then if you go on the internet, I've put all this is in there, and it's happening today. And then before Iraq War, I also give another insight. I say if Iraq War should go ahead, because this is what I'm receiving here, it's going to spill over. And when it spill over, it will never be stopped. And it has never been stopped. And you know how many people has been dying? And you know it has spilled over. It has spread to this country. There's bombing all over the place. And it's affecting many families, many lives. Now, when somebody is speaking and having insight on what's going to happen in the future, I mean, we all can have opinion. I'm not speaking from opinion. I'm speaking of what I'm sure of. Okay. And it's happening already right now.
Let me get Denise to round up. I think what Pastor also saying that he's been given a prophecy. And he's seen several prophecies in the past that have actually come to pass. That's what he's basing his theory on.
That's right.
Yeah. So, Denise, can you sum up for me? Because I'm conscious of time.
Okay. I am able to stay on for another half an hour, but I don't know if that works for you, Esther.
I've got someone else.
Okay.
We're going to call him, but yeah, go on.
All right, so I think the salient points from here to bear in mind is that the UK voted to leave the European Union at 11 p.m. on the 29th of March, which is less than, maybe 10 months away. We are going to be leaving. The impact this is going to have a very negative impact, I think, on the economy for us as we move into a period of greater uncertainty. We have questions around the Irish border and the Good Friday Agreement, because we have to consider how we're going to continue to have a trading border with Ireland and not jeopardize that agreement. The Commonwealth, as a group of 52 nations, it is not our problem. A Commonwealth, as a Commonwealth country, it's not for us to provide a solution for that. And that most of the black Commonwealth countries have low trading relationships with the UK, but they do have relationships with Europe trading, and that to me is hugely important for those local economies. And while I accept the pastor may have had a premonition about how the world will look, I don't have those. I can't say that I will be basing my ideas about the future around that. I'm more firmly grounded in things that I can see, feel, hear, touch in the here and now. And I think that Brexit is not going to have a hugely positive effect on the black community. And at the moment, it's made more black people, in my experience, feel less British, because the conversations now are about they're more aggressive, and I find that people are more hostile towards each other. And then we have the whole issue with the Windrush debacle and how that impacted on elders in our community and the message that sent out. So yes, I think we have to have an optimistic mindset, but I don't think that negates discussions and important questions about how we maneuver ourselves in this very volatile time.
Okay, thank you so much. I've got to let her go. And if I have time, I'll try and maybe call you, or you can call us back. Okay. But it's been good. It's been good argument, Denise. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Pastor Sam.
It's nice to have you.
Okay, speak to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's here, the African Gospel Music and Media Awards 2018, celebrating excellence. On the 2nd of June 2018, at East London Arts and Music Main Auditorium, 45 Maltings Close, Bromley by Bow, London, E3 3TA, from 6 p.m, featuring Joe Beto, Diana Hamilton, Isabella, Called Out Music, Shekinah, Dena Mwanga, Afri David, Angel Bernard, Judith Sefuma, Blessing Ali, and Reapers Choir. For tickets and information, visit AfricanGospelMusicAwards.com or call 07906 932 670. The African Gospel Music and Media Awards 2018, celebrating excellence.
Clap your hands and dance it.
Tune in to the new ABN Breakfast Show from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. The London City Show has evolved into an all-new breakfast show with sizzling slices of juicy newsy current affairs served with junior jumbo-sized convos on issues you should be aware of. What did I just say? The ABN Breakfast Show, the Afropolitan breakfast you can't afford to miss.
Consider that life wasted. Consider the heart ripped out of a family. Consider the potential never realized. Are these the things you consider when you carry a knife? It's not about street cred, it's about staying alive. Drop that knife, save your life.
ABN Radio.
London!
London's Afropolitan radio station.
Good morning and welcome back to The Discourse with me, Esther Halade. And we've been talking about Brexit. It's been very heated here. We've had Sabon on the phone, who is a lawyer who voted for us to leave Brexit. And then we had a lovely Denise Headley on the phone, who voted for us to stay in Brexit. And we've got Pastor Sam Adetona, who voted for us to also leave the European Union. And he's also had a vision from God that Britain will indeed be great again through leaving the European Union. And I now have Paul Lawrence on the phone. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Paul. Can you hear me?
Morning, Esther. I can hear you clearly.
Perfect. How are you?
I'm very well indeed.
Have you been listening in?
I have, with great interest. Good discussion.
It was getting heated, but I like that because it shows passion and it shows that people's perspective and what their viewpoints are, and it's bringing a lot of questions out as well. So what are your thoughts? What did you vote to stay in or out?
I certainly voted to remain.
Okay.
I think what we are seeing prior to the referendum and since the referendum is a lack of honesty and a distinct lack of leadership.
Okay.
When we discuss Brexit, one of the things that people do not discuss, especially in the black community, is the genesis of Brexit.
Okay.
We ignore the quite racist fundamentals of Brexit and pretend, because of our political allegiance, that somehow Brexit is the best thing for us. If we go back to a time before the David Cameron government, no one was discussing leaving the EU. It was not a dinner table discussion. No one was saying the EU is killing us. There were a few, of course, but in the mainstream, none of the political parties, none of the cocktail dinner conversations revolved around Brexit.
Yeah.
But what did happen was a party called UKIP came into existence, and UKIP's entire manifesto was one of anti-immigration. No one can deny that. Their stance was about anti-immigration, and these are documented facts. I don't deal in opinions, and I certainly don't deal in visions. I only deal in facts, what we know. So what we had was UKIP, who were anti-immigration. That tone, that extreme right-wing tone, appealed to certain members of the Conservative government of the time, and there was a leakage. There was a leakage of MPs from the Conservative government to UKIP. That fear that there was a loss of power, which may have existed, prompted David Cameron to make this promise of a referendum. That promise was merely made to satisfy his MPs and say to them, look, you don't need to move to someone like UKIP. I'm taking a firm stance on immigration. And again, I stress, nothing to do with the EU. Purely about that. And we move on. David Cameron is ill-prepared for a referendum, as, to be honest, are the Leave campaigners. They too are ill-prepared. And I can demonstrate very clearly that both sides were ill-prepared, because to this day, neither side have issued any statements of fact based upon research. The government confessed that they had done no research into the economic, into the financial, into the health, into the social consequence of Brexit. That's documented. I don't need to make that up. No research was done. And what we saw was an emotional, xenophobic vote. Again, based in the very same context of UKIP's rising anti-immigration. We saw a lot of that sentiment, and the argument, the debate for whether economically we'd be better off, whether economically we'd be worse off, was never had.
Yeah.
We were advised by the Leave campaigners, and I remember this with such humor, to ignore the experts. This is what we were told. We were told to ignore the experts, which we didn't need to be told because, quite frankly, no one had done any research. So if you're a Leave campaigner, you had no research to say we'd be better off. If you were a Stay campaigner, we had no research. But what I do know is that this honest conversation to suggest that this is about some proven economic model where we'll be better off outside of the EU is dishonest. just as, to be fair, it is just as dishonest to say we'll be better off if we had remained. But the truth is, if something isn't broken, you don't seek to fix it. So here we are now, many years later, or significant months later, and we are having all of these, what we will call, quote-unquote, stumbling blocks. The Irish border, the concept from the Bank of England that we will be hundreds of pounds worse off, which I notice most people seem to ignoring. Yesterday, the newspapers, this morning in newspapers,
is it about £800 or £900 worse off for a family?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. This morning, we're seeing people saying, "Look, the people who are talking about leaving and how bad it would be for immigration. Look, we have a lot more immigrants turning up." But these are the same immigrants, Romanians, who at the time of Brexit, we were saying we don't want them. We were saying in terms of leave, we were saying we want a better caliber of immigrants, not the Romanians. So when people start to try to rewrite history by making it fit their specific portfolios, we need to go back. I heard the pastor say earlier that you can't use the past to judge the future. He is wrong. It is the only way to judge the future. It is the only way. You have to look at the past. You have to look at the events that have taken place, the factual events, not the things that we like to think might happen. And here we are now. So for black people, we need to be careful. We have already seen that the UK's relationship with black Commonwealth countries is distinctly different from the relationship it has with white Commonwealth countries. This is not my opinion. It's a matter of fact. Yeah, it is a documented fact that their relationship is different. So we need to be careful because our lack of leadership, and I want to stress that this lack of leadership, by the way, is not just from the Conservative Party. We are also seeing a lack of leadership from the Labour Party. And the Labour Party needs to provide us with a valid opposition. This position they are taking, or should I say, this lack of a position that they are taking, wherein they are not willing to stand up and say, Brexit was a mistake by the Cameron government and we intend to fix it. If not, the UK will stumble just blindly into Brexit, and the truth is, everything that we have known so far demonstrates that they do not know what the outcome will be. And I don't think that's a good way to run a country. I believe that the right way to run a country is to do your research, do your checking, tell the people the honest truth about what lies ahead, and allow the people to vote, not on an emotional, I don't want any more immigrants in my country. But rather on this will be the impact.
That's the Shan shaking his head. He's like,
and he is entitled to shake his head.
But I think.
I mean, I'm looking at the whole thing. I can see. I mean, I'm not going to say everything that he said is wrong.
You think everything he said is wrong?
No, I say I'm not going to say everything he said is wrong. No, I mean, I can't say that.
Yeah.
However, can I say this? Do people actually realize that these European Union has been a problem in Conservative Party for a very long time? I don't think Can I just finish this statement? Can I finish this?
Okay, Paul, let him finish.
Because we might be thinking that it's just of now that this came up. No, it has been. Do you know it's due to this problem? That's why Margaret Thatcher did not stay in full time in the office.